That's our cue to keep talking as if there has been no change, because we're kicking off the Dream Team power rankings. So what I have on right now are this is what our tier list was for the week one, or like basically the pre-week one power rankings. One notable thing is that Ed and the Shadow Ducks have been replaced by Fayak and the Malamad Malamars, I think is the team name. So we will be seeing it. We will be seeing a full change up there. I think there's like a full roster overhaul. So that'll be interesting to take a look at. But some things. It's been a really cool season. I think. I know my experience with the league has really showcased some of the things that I thought would be interesting about this format, which is um, everybody has like a really shitty type chart. That means that there are Pokemon that are just really difficult to beat. Miss Mag, you're playing in the format as well. Have you kind of had that same experience where you you look at your like opponent's team and you're like, huh, how do I kill that thing? Or you're like look at your own team and your opponent's team, and you're like, they literally, how do they ever kill this thing?
Oh, 100%. Like the fact that we are drafting in trios and most of the trios have Pokemon all sharing a type makes prep like super
Yeah.
awkward. Because it's like you could have like someone with three. I think I faced like a triple electric team last week, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I have two ground types. Otherwise, I'd probably just lose.
Yeah, I've been like looking at my opponent's team. I've been like, I don't think this person can kill Corviknight. And we play the games, and you know what? They can't kill Corviknight. There's like they have no electric types and they have no fire types.
Yeah, you definitely have to get creative, I think, with like coverage moves and other forms of strategies like to circumvent those kinds of disadvantages.
Yeah, so it has absolutely been a fascinating format. I'm really excited to see how it keeps shaping up going into playoffs. I'm very sad that we only have one 4-0 team. Um, I am the reason we do not have two. I mean, Ant Man, my opponent Ant Man played well, but I'll be uploading the
Uh,
replay. I'll be uploading the replay for that series today, and it's a heartbreaker.
Is this Wi-Fi or Showdown? I don't remember.
They're all Wi-Fi leagues. It's all
Oh,
Wi-Fi.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, let's take a look at our first team. Let's take a look at our first team from the rating. Our highest rated team, and also the first team we're going to be talking about, is the Brave team, capital D, of course.
Obviously.
Oh,
And so this
they're
team,
drafting themselves.
I
Very
don't.
base still.
Has it even changed at all from week one?
This team is broken.
I don't think so.
This team did not change.
Yeah.
No.
Nope, no trades.
Yeah, and this team looks just as good as it was. The team is currently 3-1. Their only loss being to, well, we'll see later in the stream. The only current 4-0 team the only current 4-0 team, and according to our chat, some bad beats. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at this team, like there's a Milotic on this team, there's a Primarina, there's an DDF. These are all Pokemon that necessitate a lot of thought and prep, and backed up behind that just really bulky and supportive core are a lot of Pokemon that are like also capable of just like being threats in like different scenarios, right? Like, um, what is it? A Scavalier can be an excellent offensive threat under Trick Room, and you've got two phenomenal bulky waters backing it up to cover its weaknesses. And then you've got like the best Lightning Rod Pokemon in the game backing up your bulky waters. Um, there's so much just in those first two trainer picks, right? And then like the last two picks are just like tons of niche utility that are just like provide a lot of welcome support and like type coverage, right? I still like this team a lot.
Yeah, I mean you have multiple unburdened mons here that you compare. I think that's where like most of the value from his lower tier picks came from was the pickup of the two unburdened mons, with Thievul obviously being the better of the two. You also get like a really good, really bulky Trick Room setter with Dusk Noir, and I don't love Spiritomb and I don't love Rhyme or wiki, but like you said, I mean, the top 6 Mons alone are its own team, and then you have it backed up by double Unburden and a bulky, strong TR setter. So, like, I don't know. This team is just like really, really well constructed.
Yeah.
Lots of offense on all fronts.
Yeah, and
And lots of support.
it benefits a lot from the nature of this draft because electric types, like good electric types, are one of the types that's in like that's very limited. Like you just like
Yeah.
there's not a lot of good electric types. Like you'll see as we go through this team, like there's not a lot of good electric types. There's certainly not a lot of good grass types. Like like bulky waters really are incredible in this. Like bulky waters and bulky steels as well. I think really are just like even better and more valuable than they usually are in this format. And this team has both.
Yeah. Just really well constructed on all fronts, to be honest.
Yeah. Shifting the power rankings around. I do. This team is still. I think this team is still S tier. I would no longer keep it. I wouldn't keep it at the top. I don't think I'd keep it at the top of S tier anymore though, just because. But like I think it's still gonna sit near the top of S tier. I mean.
What do you think, Miss Mag?
I would agree with that. Like, his team's definitely still strong, still has a lot of tools, but I think the fact that some of the games have come down to, like he's not blowing everyone out, so, like, there's definitely some things to exploit about it. And, you know, as strong as those supportive cores are in the Ndidi and, like, the Milo, the fact that in a lot of ways they will probably predictably come almost every week means you can prep really well for them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I think. Does anybody have any arguments against S tier? I'm still perfect. Yeah, I'm still perfectly content putting it there. I think with like the restrictions that this draft format imposed, like I think this team just secured some of the best available options, and it's with its A tier and B tier picks. And I think that a lot of the best teams in this league were really shaped by like how much value they got out of those first 2 picks.
True. Yeah, it's very, very clear that this is the test run of the format.
Yeah.
With respect to just not having certain types as abundant as they are in like regular drafts, but it's such a cool format.
Mm-hmm.
It really promotes creativity, which I find very cool.
Yeah, our next team up. But yeah, our next team up. Let me pop this thing back up here. The Miss Magical Marauders by our very own Miss Meg. And Miss Meg, I believe you did make trades for the season, right?
I did. I made my 2 trades after, I think it was after week 3. Yeah, it was after week 3. So I got rid of Phoebe, which was Dusclops, Sableye, and Rotom, and I also got rid of Red, which was Pikachu, Charizard, and Snorlax, and I took Blue instead of Red, which I thought was really funny. And I took Mina instead of Phoebe.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting trades.
I'm generally a big fan of those trades. I thought Red especially was like the weak link on your team before. I just thought it wasn't really adding anything. And I think Klefki can always add something to teams. It's just such a versatile mon, right? Like it's a prankster with excellent defensive typing. That means it doesn't really need to carry a focus sash and good enough bulk as well. And it gets such a wealth of support moves.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things that just motivated the trade is I agree, like, Red was definitely, like, a weak link on my team. And after week 3, I had actually used all 12 of the Mons. So I was like, I think I'm fairly confident in what works. And, like, my tier 1, amazing. Tier 4, actually really stupidly good value down there with N. I'm glad that lasted long enough for me to pick that up. But the tier 2 and tier 3s were like really kind of shaky for the 2 weeks that I did lose. So I figured, like, let me just kind of switch things around a little bit.
Wait, Klefki has 6 kills last week? Tell me about that.
Klefki, so basically my match versus the Somerville Scissors, which was another S-rated team from the original power rankings, It boiled down to them, like, I set up screens with Klefki and then just literally chipped everything down with Dazzling Gleam and the partner Mon, and because the partner Mon is usually more threatening than Klefki just ended up getting those kills by virtue of just picking up chipped stuff. And it did get 6 of them, yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel validated. I'm always telling people to draft the keys. Sometimes keys go undrafted, and I'm like, gotta draft the keys.
Yeah. I like the rest of, like, besides just Klefki out of that tier 3 pick, I really think there's like Shinotic, you know, it's not my favorite mon, but it is like a spore spammer, and which is like technically not as good in this format because spore spam isn't allowed because of the sleep clause, but you know, realistically it could be worse. The pick I really like is Ribombi. Ribombi I think is a really good pickup. For the sole fact that it makes Rhyperior into a fast threat rather than a slow one. So like you do have the options for redirection or fake out plus trick room, but now you also have the option to make Rhyperior, who's like one of the more interesting mons in this format. Just like raw offensive power, it does a really good job with its moves. But defensively, it's not as good. But with Ribombi, you can make it fast, and that's a really interesting prospect. So I actually think that the value goes beyond just the Clef Key in that tier 3 pickup.
Yeah,
And
Bombi's good.
obviously the tier 2 pickup is phenomenal too. You get a good trick room setter, and you get a good support mom with Blastoise. So yeah, honestly, phenomenal pickups.
Yeah. I agree. Blastoise, highly versatile mon. A little bit less impressive here just because there's also a Milotic. But like we said earlier, like bulky waters are really, really good in this format. So having 2 of them, it's yeah. It is like a good choice, right? It's so hard. It's so hard to kill bulky mons in this format. Sometimes it feels like you just don't have the coverage for some reason.
Wow.
This is broken, man. This shit is insane.
I gotta say this. Well, Blastoise definitely earned a staying spot because it single-handedly won my week 4 by clicking Weather Ball into Ferrothorn next to Sunny Day Klefki, which you can see if you watch my stream, which absolutely destroyed that Ferrothorn.
That's so funny.
You should go watch. You should go watch Miss Mag's VODs if you haven't already. Watch all of our
Real.
content creators.
Real.
But Blastoise is a real one for anybody except Chad, as it happens.
Blastoise is my second favorite bulky water to use, but it turns out Miss Mag has both of my favorite bulky waters because Milotic is my favorite.
Milotic is
honestly,
incredible.
honestly, yeah, just like I'm pretty biased towards this team because I just like a lot of the picks, and I would argue this is also an S tier team.
Yeah, it definitely. I think. Looking back, I do think it was actually a mistake to rate this team S tier in week 1, just off of how much I didn't like, Red, to be honest. But we generally thought this team could do pretty well. It's been a bit of an up and down season, right? The team's 2-2. I think the schedule is pretty well. I was gonna say the schedule is looks pretty good, but you have to play versus me, so now you're gonna be 2-3, and that's pretty unfortunate.
Oh, I'm ready for you. Don't worry. Nothing compares to the week 3 loss. Honestly, that one hurt. That one I lost the full para.
Yeah, hate to see that.
But yeah, yeah, I could definitely see like. Yeah, I think on paper it's still an S tier team. I think I think just like by performance, I kind of want to bring it down, but I could still see it like putting it in like I could still see it sitting in S tier with like some of the top teams.
To be honest, though, the one thing that the trades do is the trades make your tier 4, or I guess your D tier, feel a little bit worse because the thing that made Zoroark so good on your team originally was that it had so many ghost types to hide behind, which means it wasn't like weak to fake out. Whereas now it's like a little bit weaker here because it just has way less to hide behind, and just your tier 4 in general just doesn't seem nearly as impactful. But having an impactful tier 1, 2, and 3 more than makes up for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I did realize that like I've started not needing the Zorak bluff in prep, but one of the good things about the tier 4 is like you still get that kind of like nice cheap tailwind setter and trick room combo with the arch ups and the cling cling, and technically Zorak can at least hide behind Rabambi since that can't be faked out either.
True.
Don't expect that for any of my future opponents watching this video. I'm not actually going to do it, but it's there.
Or will you?
Or
Yeah.
will I?
Yeah.
Still an S team though. Very good. Lots of good options and good mons.
Sure, I can be talked into keeping it S. I think S is gonna end up being crowded again. I think it's just like, it's interesting. I think like I look at, I feel like I don't know, it's very top. I think the league is still kind of top heavy, and I think it still feels that way.
Yeah, it likely will be a little bit just by the nature of the drafts. Like lots of things are good, and also lots of things aren't good. So
Okay, what's
gonna be like
next? The crushing Sylvalis. This team has gotten off to a bit of a struggle in the first half. They've had a pretty tough strength of schedule, right? Like they played two teams that we initially rated an S tier, and then they also played our 4-0 team, which is just, it's got weaknesses,
absurd.
but like as this format has kind of proven to show, the weakness is a lot more difficult to exploit than it traditionally would be. So, I mean, this team does have strong Pokemon. Has it made trades?
no, these look like the exact same.
No
mons.
trades. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still got some like it's still got some of like the aspects of weirdness going on that like I wasn't like a huge fan of before. I think this was originally like one of our lowest rated teams, and I don't really feel different. I don't really feel differently about it. Like I've also like after playing against it too. Like when prepping for this team, it felt like it had very clearly exploitable weaknesses, and they were just as exploitable as I felt they were in prep. If you haven't seen the VODs yet, this team, remember I talked earlier about how some teams just can't kill Corviknight? This team, nothing for killing Corviknight. Literally can't do it.
Yeah. I would say I feel relatively about the same about this team. All of the weaknesses that I stated, the first time around being like too many mons don't like Ninetales on this squad, and just like not enough like overall synergy. Like most of these mons don't really care about being on the board at the same time as each other. Like overall, just like a lot of my opinions on this squad just remain unchanged.
It can't break. Like the team lacks breaking power, but it's also not a super fast team. But it's also not super bulky without bringing Ninetales and setting up like Aurora Veil. But Hail hurts a lot of your Pokemon because a lot of these Pokemon here like there's multiple Pokemon here that want Focus Sash and even fight each other over Sash. But then when you have Ninetales on its own just fails to be very threatening, and it's also not super useful defensively. Like there's no dragon that like the fairy typing is like really like there's no strong dragon that like the fairy typing can cover for, and that Ninetales can really help support. Like this team would have loved a strong dragon. I really, as good as Milotic is in this format, I feel like the A tier pick isn't doing this team any favors. I think this team like really just like needs to find a threat that'll kill stuff for it. Because I know in my matchup this team just couldn't kill anything.
Yeah, I agree. You definitely need a lot more punching power than this team has to offer.
Yeah, I would say that like my one sort of criticism of this team, and I don't remember if I said this during the last PRs, or like in chat, I just think it's still a bit of an identity crisis. Like there is good stuff here, but there isn't a lot of like very obvious synergy, which I think obvious synergy is important when from a prep perspective. Like there's a lot of subtle things this team can do, but I don't think it's enough to carry it in the long run.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even the super cute stuff doesn't feel very good, right? Like you can think about like niche strats, like maybe baton pass Scallopy, but what the hell are you baton passing to? There's no threat.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You need something strong. So I think that I personally still don't have a whole lot of love for this team.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm honestly, I'm lower on this team than I was when we did this the first time around. Which like it sounds harsh, but I really don't like this team.
yeah, same here.
well, you had the added advantage of playing them to augment your opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's true, right? Like I just like yeah, for those who know, like when I play this team, literally I sent out Corviknight. I clicked bulk up a bunch, and like Corviknight eventually killed everything, and that was all there was to it in like both games.
Yeah.
Like,
I say this is a C tier team still.
yeah,
Yeah, I really don't like this team personally.
yeah. I think unless something's changed, I think it'll probably still be my least favorite team in the division. Which like, it's harsh, but like, I don't know. I think like that. I haven't checked at what A tiers are open, but it's in such desperate need of a threat to support. Like there's so many ways that this team could cheekily support like a really strong like set up physical attacker to do like at the very least be like a strong gimmick team with like a flexible variety of gimmicks that it can threaten people with. But it needs a threat. Like ultimately, this is what it comes to. This team has no threat, and I think it won't. I think it'll continue to fail to kill things unless like there's like a trade made. And I think it's like the last week for trades, right? So
Yeah, this is the last week for trades, and I would agree with you. Like, and it's sad because I like some of the mons on the team individually, but it is a pain to see them not super well supported as they could be.
mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing else to add. I think that this team needs power.
Yeah, tier 1 is not strong enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been
Alright.
fine if you picked up if they'd picked up threats in like tier 2, and there were tier 2 teams that had like good threats, but there is none. There's no firepower. But that's enough harping on this team. Next up is one of our other one of the other teams that we weren't super high on, the Scuba Squirtles, and this team did make trades, right?
No, this looks like the exact same team too.
Okay. Then this team, this was like the team that we rated second lowest, and I mean they have managed to pull it out to being 3-1, and their only loss is versus our highest rated team. There were things I liked about this team, but it did also feel like it had some pretty glaring and like exploitable holes. But
I don't know. I guess when I looked at this squad, my problem with it was that there was like a lack of power, but my realization is like the power is like sneakily there, and the bulk is just absurd with this squad. Like this team is like insanely bulky while still having like enough power is what I've noticed.
Sylveon is very good at killing stuff in this format, as is Gudra apparently. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think like I think part of what I think we were part I think part of in week 1 we didn't quite realize like how in demand threats would be. So Pokemon that can be good threats, especially like when there's not like bulky threats, are I think more valuable in this format than we initially realized. So like Sylveon and Gudra, which both do that really well, like function as bulky threats. And I mean they're supported by both Tailwind and Trick Room here, which like really lets them take advantage of their middling speed tiers. They can definitely carry a team. Some of the things I didn't like about the team are still present, right? Like there's like a lot of Pokemon that don't really feel like they have a niche in like Blissey and in all 3 grass types in the tier 4, but that's still a criticism I have with the team is that the tier 4 it feels like it's actively doing nothing, and like if I look at the Pokemon that they brought to games, I think it has actively done nothing. So like I still would like to see a trade out of that to something that's useful. But like, yeah, I think Niels is doing well for himself with the rest of the team. Like it's a team that's 3-1 and has faced I think some pretty reasonable teams and like has generally looks like it's won pretty decisively. And it's also
I
like
mean,
up there with like putting Sylvia on the kill leaderboard, which I support.
this team, when I look at it, it just like my biggest problem with it is like it just brings the same shit like over and over again. Like it feels relatively limited with its options because it has kind of so little. Like
Mm-hmm.
Blissey is not a good Pokemon. Like you are not going to be bringing Blissey often. Same with Carbank. And so that like really forces you into a corner where like okay, like I have to bring Sylveon, I have to bring Goodra, and I have to bring Meowstic and Talonflame to almost every other game. And every other Mon who comes besides that is just like a tech Mon for the week.
Yeah, it
I'm
looks
not a
like
huge fan of having limited options like that.
yeah, he's played 3 matches, and there are exactly 6 Mons that have come to matches. So, yeah, it's very telling, right? Like, it looks like the exact same core of 6 has probably come to every match. Or like, I guess we other stuff might have come, but they didn't play games, right? So there's been Niels has shown at least like through the first 4 weeks has kind of seemed to think that there's exactly 6 usable Pokemon on this team, and that's definitely a limitation, right? Like if I can like look if I can look at like this team when I'm prepping for it and see you you've only brought these 6 Pokemon, it gives me it gives a pretty clear idea of what to prep for, and it doesn't feel like a super top heavy draft either, like where there's just stuff that's overwhelmingly powerful, which is normally what kind of compensates for the factor, right? Like you like look if you look at a team, it's like, well, there's only 6 or 7 Pokemon that can come, but one of them is like Kyogre.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Mm-hmm. But
Sylveon and Goodra just aren't those top tier threats. They're just bulky offense, basically.
Yeah, but I'm still quite a bit higher in this team than I was in the previous power ranking, just purely off of the fact that I think bulky offense is a lot better. I think Mons that are just bulky offense is a lot better than I gave it credit for, and they are pretty well supported in the team. And it's a 3-1 team. Like,
Set of all just better in this format than other stuff too, where it's like not much can really break through because the power level is just so much lower in general, which it's like a rude awakening for restricted players, people who are used to that kind of format.
I would say this team like goes to B tier, but I can't really justify any higher than that until it becomes like a more complete team, you know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think the D tier is very good. Like the grass types all of them are bad. Flapple is usable.
Not particularly. Hustle without Max is not an extremely good ability.
Yeah, I mean usable at best. Like not really. Wishy-washy, it's like okay. Hex is just like you have bulky options. Like Araquanid is solid. Blissey is terrible. is the issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we can harp on the Blissey, but I don't think it actually accomplishes much to harp on the Blissey because like clearly like the Goodra and the Sylveon are doing the heavy lifting in this team, and the Blissey is just like the cost you pay for it, right? Like there's quite a few teams in here that have like a useless Pokemon in A tier as the cost of the other mons they got with it.
Yeah, I will say that like I think it's an alright team. I think B tier is about as high as I would put it too. I am honestly might even argue it belongs in C tier, just because like not that I think it's like a bad team, but I kind of agree with like what you guys were saying. Like some of the mons, like it's too much of the same mons doing the heavy lifting, but at the same time, like I look at the strength of schedule for some of the teams he already has fought, and it's kind of like. Not that the matchups are bad or that the opponents are bad, but like for example, I am super interested to see this team match versus the Scissors, who have Ferrothorn, because I don't see anything on that team killing Ferrothorn. I'm just gonna be real honest.
Sylveon's Mystical Fire does a lot to Ferrothorn.
I mean, that's true, but he also has range. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how he does in
Yeah.
the bulky offense mirror.
Yeah, his
It's
strength
really-
his strength of schedule definitely gets harder, and I think his lack of options might definitely come to bite him there. But even if one of the wins was a forfeit, like I do value like current performance to an extent when like doing a midseason rating like this, and I think when your team is 3-1, like then like clearly what's there is working. I think B tier is fine. I wouldn't call it an A tier team. I think it might fall off a bit going to the back half, but Niels has done
Yeah.
well. The bulky threats have performed, and like the support has clearly been there. So it'd just be nice to see less useless Pokemon from the lower tiers.
Yeah, I definitely think I definitely think he might at least consider one trade just going into the back half, because like those limited options are really might come back to haunt him going all the way to playoffs.
Yeah, I think he can get some usable Pokemon out of like tier 4, and I think the team would be improved by getting something usable in tier 4.
Mm-hmm.
But up
I'll be back in
next
a few minutes.
we have the Tranquil Torkoals, coached by whatever, and this team was one of our B tier teams initially, and I can't remember, did he make trades?
They definitely made trades.
Yeah, he definitely made trades. He traded right away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tier three is
he
new.
picked up the Maxi.
I think that was the only trade they made was the Maxi.
Honestly, what a good pickup. I don't remember what was there originally, but I'm sure as shit certain that it's not better than
it
what's
was.
here now.
I think
so-
it was like Jesse or something. It was a trainer with Mimikyu.
It was Jesse, yeah.
There's like
Mimikyu, Gorgeist,
Wobbuffet.
and I think Wobbuffet.
Yeah, and Mimikyu. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a Doug Trio here. I think Doug Trio can be super useful in draft. There's one of the best fast tailwind setters that isn't Prankster in the game when Crobat. And like, Colossal can do stuff. Oh yeah, I'm like asking about. There's like literally a trade center right here that I'm looking at that says out and in.
Nice.
But yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah.
Well,
And Crobat
there it
has come to every single week since it was brought in. So clearly pulling its weight.
Yeah, just a change in dynamic for this team, having a Mon that can set up fast tailwind, and it's really shown for like some of these Mons, because like Weavile really appreciates the fast tailwind, but then like the Mon that has benefited the most out of it has actually been that Porygon Z, who is able to come out the back once tailwind has been set up and just start blasting shit with its adaptability. Probably adaptability like Tri Attack is my guess, but it's really shown. Crobat has just completely changed the dynamic of this team, and a really clear example of how one trade can really make your team much better.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating how this team is like an A tier that I think a lot of people would probably argue that it is like not one of like the stronger A tier options, right? Like all the Pokemon are like good, but like there's nothing that stands out as like being insane, right? They're just kind of versatile. But like all three of the A tiers in this team, like throughout a season, have clearly like been doing like the brunt of the heavy lifting in terms of like kills, support, everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had to face this team in week 2, and that was right after he picked up the Maxi trade. It definitely added a harder dimension with the fast, almost unbeatable tailwind. Like, it's very hard to stop Crobat from setting tailwind, especially when he could just slap Mental Herb on it like every week, since it can't be flinched. But yeah, the PZ and the Silvally and the Weavile are like, I kind of underestimated that A tier, just because not because I didn't think the Mons were good, but because like they all happen to share like a weakness to. Well, Silvally can be anything, but like generally speaking, they're all weak to fighting. So but he's really supported it well, and the Crobat kind of just adds to that by just being a really strong fighting resist. Then he's got like the Trick Room stuff in the second tier. It's a well put together team. Definitely a lot of threats, and I would argue that even the Colossal is not a bad pickup for this team. at all. Like like we were talking about how some teams have like garbage mons in exchange for 2 of their other picks. I don't really see any garbage mons here.
Phalanx. It's like Defiant,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's at least a Defiant. You can kind of cheese that away from like your Gallade or your Silvally.
it's with 3 other fighting types in the team that are all arguably more useful. It definitely feels pretty out of play. Well, but like that's just like the price you pay, right? Like when I think all the monotype trainers kind of had that effect where like there's a Pokemon in them where it's like I have so many Pokemon of this type that like this one really doesn't need to come.
Yeah, and I mean, at the very least, you can respect Tailwind plus no retreat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good, but, like, it's there. He might get a win with that someday.
Yeah, it is certainly there. I think the team's definitely, like, improved from before, right? And last time we kind of had it in the middle of B tier. It's definitely a better team than it was. 2-2 in the standings, but generally, I think arguably had a pretty strong strengths of schedule, I think. I mean, this is definitely a team that, like, we put in B tier. I'd be okay bumping this team up, like, into the A tier. I still don't... I still think it lacks some the raw strength and brokenness of some of the teams we have, like, in S tier. But, like, it's a team with a ton of pieces, and it's got a lot of play to it. Like, there's a lot of room to, like... I mean, it's a Silvally team, right? But, like, yeah, there's, like, a lot of room to just be super flexible in the sets you're bringing and, like, have, like, a lot of surprise factor and, like, just... there's a lot of room to finesse people with this team.
Yeah, I would agree. I would be fine with, like, maybe, like, low to mid A tier or even higher on B, because I would say it's a very flexible team, and I think flexibility is something that's hard to find in this limited format. Like, good flexibility, at least.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Chad? Or did we lose him?
We might have stepped away. If only the coach was better. That's funny.
Well,
I mean, honestly, he played a really strong game against my team before trades, and he was one of them. Fighting his team was actually one of the main reasons I even considered trading away Red, because the Charizard just did like nothing there. So
since Chad isn't here, I think this is a base team. I think it's been really improved by a Weavile. I think this team has like a lot of room to go upwards from here on like an upwards trajectory, and I think it'll be really impressive to see what it does with the rest of its season. Yeah, that's my terrible Chad impression. Don't tell him about it.
He'll just watch it on the playback.
Let's see, what's our next team? Next up, the Barcelona Malamad. So this is, well, essentially we're rating this team from fresh, right? Because I think it's...
Yeah, it's the old Shadow Ducks, basically.
Yeah, did he keep most of the roster, or was it a complete
all
overhaul?
New.
Yeah, all new.
Overall,
and then there was a week 4 trade as well?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
It was like a weird trade because technically it wasn't during week 4, but it counted outside of his 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm.
So he never played with the thing he dropped.
Okay, so it's functionally an entirely new team. So we won't even talk about where it was placed before. So let's look at this as a wholly new entity. It's the Barcelona Malamad. So coming in basically after 3 weeks. Team came in with a 1-2 record. Brand new team, adopted. Got the win on its 1 week of existence. So this team is technically 100% win rate, undefeated. Team is Lance. I have no idea who the second person is. Surge and Vok. Or no, that's Palmer.
The second person. I think the second person is like a real person, and then the fourth person is actually Matrix. So
Matrix.
The second person is actually him. He like drafted himself.
Perfect.
So we have 2 mods who did that.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, overall feelings. I think Lance is okay. Lance, much like I felt when I first saw Lance, I felt like he really wanted to be playing in a Dynamax format, and I still feel that way. Um, Dragonite's like a good versatile mon, but like nothing here is super broken. Gyarados is like okay. Charizard, especially without Sun support, is like not very good. Um, and then in like the
Yeah.
tier 2, Whimsicott is obviously incredible. But there's not like super amazing stuff to capitalize on the Tailwind, right? Like there's not like any super incredibly threatening breakers. You've got like in your tier 3, you've got a couple fast electric types. Got a lot of lightning rod for Gyarados, that's for sure. There's like three electric immunes in tier 3. That's pretty funny. This team is 4 electric immunes. It's a lot of electric immunes.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep having to come in and out because my fucking roommates are in the kitchen right now and they keep setting off the fucking smoke detector because they're idiots. So and I hope they can hear me because they're stupid. They deserve to hear that. But yes, this team can freely discharge next to itself with nothing but net positive using only its tier 3.
Yeah, you've heard
And I really
you've heard of the infamous Disquake, but have you heard of the Dis?
yeah, just dis and charge.
They just boost each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the
You need
this
need
one in week 4.
Yeah, you need a special attack boost on mons with relatively low special attack. All right, well, they're just going to discharge next to each other. You want to get Electivire, a speed boost? Well, you can just discharge next to your Electivire, and then Electivire can kind of do its thing after with the speed boost. It's very fun. The tier 3 kind of carries this team for me because the rest of the mons are like kind of bad, but
yeah, Whimsicott is still like there it goes again. Whimsicott is obviously like an incredible prankster support Pokemon, but I almost think that bringing Prankster Tailwind is like one of the less valuable things that it does to this team, which sounds hilarious to say, but the team just doesn't make incredible use of Tailwind. At least I feel.
I can agree because a lot of the team is so naturally fast anyway.
Yeah, or like the Pokemon that are more middling speed, like Dragonite or Gyarados, if they're going to be a threat, typically want to do it by setting up Dragon Dance anyway.
Mm-hmm.
At which point they typically don't need Tailwind support. Tailwind doesn't do a lot for the team.
The thing about Whimsy is that it just does so much besides Tailwind.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Is like Tailwind is like one of the least valuable things it does for the team.
Yeah, it sets up your Sun for Charizard. It sets up your fake tiers for some of your electric types. I mean, the Tailwind is just an incredible added bonus. And I mean, speed control at any point during the game is always relatively nice. So, my problem is that this team doesn't really have a D tier. Like, it doesn't have a D tier that it's like getting any use out of. Realistically, Double is like a
yeah, Aromatisse is like okay. It's got some stuff going for it. The Trick Room package isn't like incredible, right? Unless I guess, obviously, I think the Trick Room package is there so that he can try and use Malamar. I think for obvious reasons. I don't know Fyac, but I get this sense that he might be a Malamar fan. You probably know him better, so you could probably tell me if I'm right or wrong on that.
You hit the nail on the head, Lilac. Definite Malamar fan.
I'm looking at like the Malamad's logo and the fact that he drafted himself and he himself has a Malamar, and I'm just getting the feeling that like if this guy could pick a Pokemon, it might be Malamar.
For the record, he also drafted it in all 3 leagues that he's in, because he's in all 3 of them.
And did he draft Malamar in all of them?
All of them. It was his first pick in Masters, and I think it was his first pick in Mythical Mayhem as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And honestly though, like we were talking about the Whimsicott not getting much value out of Tailwind, which I completely agree with, but that just frees it up to give Malamar so much value with Contrary, Fake Tears, Charm, whole bunch of stuff there. So that's a nice little package that I'm sure he enjoys as a Malamar enjoyer.
Average Malamar enthusiast.
Right.
I honestly, I can't relate to the mind of a Malamar enthusiast. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's all him. I'm more of a Lorantis fan myself, but to each their own, I suppose.
As far as contrary Pokemon go, I'm really more of a superior enjoyer. You can call me call me a traditionalist, I guess. I vibe with the good one.
2 words, stab, U-turn. Yeah, I mean, I found Malamar to be actually really annoying to prep for in a completely different league, just because it's a very funny trick room setter where like it can't be phased if it has suction cups and mental herbs. So literally you have to fake out and kind of deal with it if you want to stop trick room from going up. Obviously that's less important on this team because they have the aroma teas. But other than the tier 4, other than really the double and the whale lord, which kind of have to come with the tier 4 package, everything else in this team I kind of like. It's getting some value.
I don't know. I think that the A tier for me leaves a lot to be desired, and doesn't all it's really offering to the team is just further supporting this team's discharge mode, by kind of having like immunities to the ground types that threaten the discharge mode. They themselves as Pokemon don't really threaten ground types, but except for like Dragonite with Ice Punch or Gyarados with like Waterfall, I guess. But I don't know. The team to me only feels okay.
Yeah, I look at the one match this team has played so far, and the A tier is basically not represented at all in like the team that actually came to the game. And I think, like obviously, like that shows that like clearly he can like considering he won, he can get he can get good use out of his lower tiers. But I think that if you're looking at your A tier in any match and being like, yeah, I don't really want to use any of these Pokemon, then there's something fundamentally wrong with your A tier.
Yeah, just wasted value is all.
I mean, there's definitely probably a way he could supplement that better. My impression was from from what he chose as the A tier, which was like as much offense as he could find in one package. But maybe there's a different way to add that offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah, because like clearly he looked at like prepping for like the Cypher team was like, yeah, don't really like any of this offensively. I think Raichu, Electivire, and Malamar are going to be my DPS carries, and obviously like there's some bias there towards Malamar potentially, but I just I feel like if you're not bringing your threats, then clearly like your threats if you're not bringing the threats that are supposed to be the threats, then the threats aren't actually that good. And yeah, Niels, you will see you'll see your team here pretty soon when we go to rate this one, which I think we can pretty much go to do now.
We already ranked Niels.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he'll see where it's placed on the tier list.
Yeah, he'll have to watch the playback to actually hear what we had to say.
But yeah, we did bump you up to B tier, Niels. Your team's clearly done pretty well for itself, but does still seem to lack options. But yeah, as far as the Malamads, which I don't actually have their logo on this chart, because I couldn't figure out how to add it because I'm an idiot apparently. So we'll just represent the Malamads with the Shadow Ducks, and then like I'll Photoshop over it or something when I post a screenshot.
Sounds good.
That works.
Yeah, I don't know. Feels like another like B tier team to me, personally.
Yeah. I do agree. Like there's also not like a really much of a sample size to like, to say that this team has like outperformed where I think it is on paper. And on paper, like, I think he got good use out of like his, low tier mons and like in the week he's played. But I really don't like the A tier, and I don't think the A tier adds a lot to the team. And I think that's like. This is like a crippling drawback that like what should be the strongest part of your team feels like its biggest liability.
Yeah, agree.
That's fair. That's fair.
I would say I like it more than Niels' team, but not any higher than B tier personally.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. Actually, I feel like it offers a wealth more. Like you could use more of those mons
Mhm.
compared to Niels's team on the regular.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm kind of about even on them. I think you can use I think you can use more Pokemon on it, but I think yeah, I don't know. I just think that like I really like the obviously there is so I'm a bit I you know what I'm a bit biased towards Neil's team. Um, I like bulky offense in VGC, and Sylveon and Gudra are just two Pokemon I really like that in general. So I may be a little bit biased looking at that team. So I'll defer to your judgment. We can bump the Malamads above it.
Ah,
Okay.
don't worry. I share that same bias. I also enjoy bulky offense, which is kind of why I want to see it done a little bit better for Niels. Still a strong
Hmm.
team, but never bad to take on some improvements.
True. Who's next?
It's me, the Bell Tower Radiance. This
Oh,
team
okay.
has made no trades. It started off the season 3-0, and then it lost heartbreakingly to Ant-Man due to some misnavigation of the Corviknight 1v4.
uh, yeah. This this team is certainly a team that exists. It's got a couple of okay mons like Urshifu, who's like kind of mid, and Didi, who's personally not a favorite of mine, but there's a couple of okay other mons there, like Corviknight, who seems to carry most of the time. Uh, Other than that, not a whole lot of usage out
Sylveon's
of
picked up a few kills.
yeah. I don't know. Her B tier doesn't really do a whole lot, but whatever. No, in all honesty, like this team has stayed the exact same for me. My thought process on this team, where it's literally just the 2-for-1. It's just 2-for-1 the team. Um, where every single team has two good mons and one bad one, and with that you're able to get a lot of versatility out of how to make your good mons work with each other. So yeah, honestly, just like a fair trade. It's well built, and you have lots of offense on both the special and physical spectrum.
Well, I won't say too much because I am
Yeah.
scheduled to play this team tomorrow, so I won't say anything about weak points that I might have found.
Mhm.
But I also say that it has earned its spot remaining in the S tier. It has performed well, and I find it exceptionally funny that if I was to just look at this team from week one, or I guess week zero, and think about it, I would have probably never guessed that it would have became like a Corviknight centric team. Like it doesn't have the tools that are usually conventionally around for Corviknight to be like uber successful, other than like the rain. But I really like the fact that they've taken such value out of out of that lower tier. Um, Obviously, Ndidi is broken. Urshifu in any form busted. And again, like Chad said, with the 2-for-1, yeah, probably not going to use Cramorant, but like it's there, you know. Same thing with like the B tier, Hatterene and Sylveon, too great. Rapidash Galar, not the greatest, but it adds some good physical offense to this team, which you might not be able to see on paper. So yeah, I'd say it's a pretty strong team. Definitely has a good amount of bulk on it, especially for some of those the B and the C tier mons. I think the only mon on your team like I just genuinely don't like for any real reason is just Noctowl. Like it's just kind of really there.
Yeah. Well, it's probably never coming to a game because there's a Pelipper and a Corviknight.
Yeah, exactly, right. But like if I just had to zero in on one mon, like I could even make a case
Yeah.
for Cramorant because I've seen what Cramorant can do on non-max, but like Noctowl, not Owl, not for me.
You're not a big believer in the what is it, the superb owl?
I'm afraid not. But if you bring it versus me tomorrow, I might become a believer.
Yeah, well, I will consider it. I will look at I'll look at my flying types that I actually like, and I'll consider whether I think Noctowl has more to offer than them. It definitely can throw out those tinted lens unmissable hurricanes, which is a thing that it offers on paper. But yeah, I liked this team when I drafted it. I've had a lot of fun using it. I went into TGR DT thinking I'm gonna try and find some of my favorite Pokemon, and I'm gonna make them successful. And so I found trainers that had Sylveon and Corviknight, and I backed them up with what I thought was one of the most broken A tiers. And I've pretty much had exactly the experience I wanted with it. I've made people think they're going to lose to Urshifu and Indeedee Hatterene, and instead killed them with Sylveon and Corviknight.
I wish to see the hamster get used.
Crazy. Oh, I would also love to see the Dedenne get used, because I think it's a really neat little mon down there.
Yeah, I mean, it could have a niche.
Neat is a word I like. I like that.
It suffers from being slightly slower than Heliolisk, and that the Heliolisk speed and has kind of mattered in some matchups. But
Use the hamster.
I'm sure it'll find an opportunity to be useful. The fan might even too. It's still a Rotom.
Yeah.
True.
I think this is an S tier team all around. Decent speed control, very good power, very good natural bulk. Just a lot of these Pokemon just have seamless roles on this team, and it just seems really well rounded. So I would say this. I mean, I know you're not going to put your team at the top of the tier list, but I would say if I were to put this team anywhere, it would be at the top of the tier list.
Yeah, I think this team would be 4-0 if the pilot was better.
Maybe.
Quite possibly. But then I look at the dock and I see that your only loss is 1-2, and the Sylveon got 7 kills, so it happens.
Yeah. I tragically made the mistake of actually attacking with Urshifu, and it lost me the game.
Yeah, I don't hear that one every day.
Yeah, it's the Urshifu's job was to click coaching on Corviknight and Indeedee, and it did something else, and I lost for it.
Man, Urshifu, you gotta stick to your job, man.
I should get a better support Pokemon than Urshifu, to be honest.
Maybe.
But yeah, okay. I also do think my team is an S tier team in this format, but I will not be putting my team at the top of the S tier, so I'll defer to you on where I put it that is not at the top.
The next highest one.
Honestly, I would personally say this is probably the second best team that we have. At least going into mid-season. And the only team I would put above it will come. You could probably guess which one that is.
Yeah, I think I can guess it as well. I do like my matchup against that team. I'm sad I'm not actually playing it because we'll talk about that when we get there. But okay, I'll put my team here in expectation of it being a cert, so that it's more dramatic when I fall. I should probably actually show.
Yeah, I keep waiting to see the tier list.
Yeah.
Right,
Up next we have the Middle Village Pidovs, which is a team that has struggled to get off the ground. I'll put that up in the stream here.
Perfect. Because I don't have the doc pulled up. I've just been kind of watching your stream.
Yeah, it's the same thing I did with yours. So this team off to an 0-4 start. One of the teams we were actually higher on in theory, but it's clearly struggled a bit to to click, I guess. A lot of rough losses. They've played some of our better teams for sure, but they just struggled to put wins together, it looks like.
I mean, I already with regards to this squad, I mean, the only thing I said about this team was that they needed to change that B tier, and they clearly didn't change that B tier, and their team just has no synergy because of it, and I can definitely see why it would struggle, just because without a change at B tier, the team has nothing. The team has no synergy, has not enough utility, just nothing ties in together. It's just a bunch of okay mons.
I remember we rated it A tier, kind of contingent on the team picking up some fast, just we were saying just pick up some good fast speed control for the team, and to really let Dracovish and even other Pokemon really thrive, and that didn't happen. So like the team
Yeah.
the team is a Dracovish team, but when you're a Dracovish team, you really need to support your Dracovish, and that hasn't happened. And clearly, like there were tools to do it, right? Like obviously, like Fnatic was able to pick up Whimsicott in the B tier 3 weeks in, right? So that was like an option on the table.
Yeah, crazy.
Whimsicott would have been an incredible Dracovish support. There's like probably like I think there's still a Crobat on the table. Like the support is still there to make this a good Dracovish team, but that hasn't happened yet, and it looks like Dracovish has really struggled to pick up kills. I think obviously in general the team has struggled to pick up kills, but I think that's unsurprising, right? Like there's firepower, but we have there are teams out here that we've seen that are all support and like no firepower, and this team has like the opposite problem.
Yeah, all firepower. I mean, realistically, when I look at this team, I actually don't really see it as a Dracovish team. I more or less see it as a Sun team, just because like the D tier and the E tier are some of the best value I've actually seen out of all of the tier lists, especially that C tier, just incredible C tier. And I actually think that the team's identity comes from its C tier, but it's like,
There's no good Sun Sweeper either.
yeah, like you have no particularly good chlorophyll mon. Like Shiftry is a mon that exists, sure, but it's not super great. And like Rillaboom is typically alright on Sun teams, but like Dracovish doesn't like being on Sun teams all that much. I don't know. I think that it's not, to me, it's not particularly surprising that this team has gotten off to a shaky start, just because like nothing on the team really ties into like what's strong about it, which is like it has one of the best C tiers, and Rillaboom is a mon that's on this team. Like other than that, like nothing else. Like the Ghost team is just like not supported at all, and to be honest, doesn't really deserve to be. It's like definitely the real weak link of the squad.
Yeah, it's like you have like a Sun mode, and there's like a Rillaboom and a Dracovish, and then there's like 3 slow ghosts.
Yeah, essentially. That's all I'm really seeing here.
Yeah,
No Tailwind, no good Icy Wind.
Yeah, we initially rated this team A tier. It's definitely not staying there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I feel like the vision of this team was initially like a sunroom concept, but like you said, Chad, the Acerola tier 2 is just really not holding it together.
I think Sunroom, it's missing the key component of Sunroom, which is Torkoal, which is like the mon that's sun and room.
I completely agree. But I can only imagine that just based on like why he might have drafted that tier 2. Or he could have just drafted it just to give the tier 4 a little bit of a break from the fighting weaknesses.
But yeah, even then, like there's too much firepower on this team for it to not have a better seat or a better tier 2 giving it some help. So I mean, I don't know. I would say this team honestly moves down to C tier just because it never made any trades, and
yeah, it hasn't won. Like the team's not working.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, they have to hard jump to C tier.
Yeah, I think that the team's not working. I think it could work and it could be scary, but we're like at this point, like if you want like to have a run at the postseason, you're looking at probably needing to like 4-0 your back half, and but like the team's differential for like games is like not strong either, right? So if they play their heart out, they've still got a shot at the postseason. But I don't think it's going to happen without a trade to inject new life into it. And
Agreed.
we've been asking for that for 4 weeks, so I'm not holding out hope.
Fair enough.
Yeah, agreed. I would say it's like probably a C tier underneath of the crushing Silvalis.
Both teams that could be majorly improved by like a trade.
Yeah, for real.
This team, I guess they have an extension for week 4? Like the week 4 match hasn't been played. This is Mav's team, the Ligma Ludicolos.
They played week 4 match, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Let me double check that. It was just reported, actually, today.
Okay, who got the W?
Ted.
Okay. Yeah, I remember this
Yeah.
team started
Ted got the
off
2-0.
pretty strong with like a very decisive week 1 win, but it's definitely struggled to find its footing a bit in the back half. We rated it quite highly. I still like the team a lot. Like I think it's got a lot of cool things going for it. In terms of like, I think it's a really cool dual weather team, and I think it's got Pokemon that like function effectively in both weathers, whether it's through Weather Ball or through having a mix of stabs that are both improved by being in different weather types. Um, and obviously Ludicolo can have both Swift Swim and Chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll is not an ability that Ludicolo
Oh.
gets.
I wish it did though.
What's this thing that I'm...
Own tempo.
Shift Tree has Chlorophyll on
yeah.
it, but not Ludicolo.
Yeah, it's Rain Dish, Swift Swim, and Own Tempo, right?
When I look at this team, I almost think there's like too much going on with this team. I get like a sense of like just completely being overwhelmed by everything that this team has to offer. It's like definitely a case of sensory overload here. And I think that actually kind of works to this coach's disadvantage, where it's like there's so much stuff here that could work, but it doesn't really feel like a very user-friendly team to play with.
It makes prep difficult when you have to first identify which component of your team is the strongest in any given matchup, and then you have to identify how you're going to support it, and you have to identify what your opponent thinks will be the strongest part of your team, and how you think they're going to try and counter that. And it's like, it's obviously very rewarding if it does come all together, because you can like, they can expect one thing and you can bring something completely different. But you have to be. It's definitely a pretty taxing burden on the prep side of things. It means that it means a lot more work than like some other kinds of teams would like have to go into prepping for each matchup.
Yeah. And I think that those kind of user unfriendly teams are often teams that don't work in draft, to be completely honest. Like whenever I see a team that's like not user friendly, I typically rate them lower, just because like if you have to make the team work, like if you have to work to make the team like function and the team is not like working for you, then it's just like not the best constructed team. And I think that in this instance, like dual weather is hard to use and even like the best situations. And in this specific example, like you have a rain sweeper who is not super great with Ludicolo, but it's not the worst. But then you have one of the worst chlorophyll users with Shift Tree, which just makes the sun aspect of this team all that much worse and lowers the value of the rain part, because if the sun like were to look good in a matchup, then that means you just can't bring the rain because it's hard to like utilize two weathers on one team. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of share a similar component. I actually am also a big fan of this team. I just think it's got a really fun construction. Like there's just so many things that the pieces can do. But I mean, I can't diss Shiftry and Ludicolo as much as maybe you have, because I've actually seen Shiftry put in a good amount of work. But I still think like it's tough for this team to do like that dual weather thing even in this limited power format, because of I feel like you need some more specific pieces. Like you do need some more specific hard carries. Like when I think of weather abusers, I will admit, as much as I can value Shiftry, especially in tier 4, it's not one of the top chlorophyll users that I would at least think of. But on this team, it's offering a pretty pivotal role in being both chlorophyll and fake out, and I guess priority to some extent. Ludicolo is kind of like the same thing, you know? And then, like, you look at their sets, like, like you said, decisive win in week 1. Week 2, I mean, they struggled against one of the only other teams in the S tier that they're facing currently. And then week 3 seems like it was a close match versus Niels. So I think they can definitely pull it out. Maybe with some trades for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm not even sure like what trades would be made for a team like this though, because you'd have to like completely deconstruct the whole idea of this team, in order to really get like anything done with it. Otherwise, it's like you're taking away something that's like really important to the squad. Um, so to be honest, I like don't even know how trades would impact this team. It might even be negative more than anything.
Yeah, I think I expect this team to kind of do its best to work with what it's got. Its remaining schedule is up and down, right? Obviously, Chicago Cinderace is like the current undefeated team, but I think I mean that's going to be a difficult matchup. But I think all of the other matchups are quite winnable for it, especially with like clever use of the options that it has on the table. Um, I think this team could I think it's still very attainable for this team to hit like a 4-4 record and try and make it in and try and like creep into playoffs and see about making a run from there. So I think this team, I think this team still is like a shot at doing well, which is like more than I can say for some other teams that have gotten off to rough starts.
I can agree with that. It's still, I would still put this team in like B tier probably, but
yeah, I think for
like
sure.
I said, it's just feels like a lot is all. That's like the big thing I noticed.
Yeah, I think we definitely can't put it back in A tier. Like performance, current performance has to play a factor.
Right.
But I think the team still has. I think it still has tools to do well, and I think it still has the potential to like surprise in the back half of the season. And I mean, I've seen Mav upset undefeated teams before.
True. All right, who's our next squad?
Up next is going to be, we've been building up to it. It is going to be the Chicago Cinderace. And let's just pop them back up here. They are our only current undefeated team. They are our other team with Urshifu. They are a team with a dramatic weakness to fairy types that, so far, I think people have kind of failed to exploit. And they face some teams with good fairy types. Like the Scuba Squirtles have the Sylveon. The Brave team has the Gardevoir and the Primarina. And they've got one of the best bulky water support Pokemon of all time on their team.
Yeah, this is. I guess I can see why this team does well. It's still kind of strange to me, honestly. Like, all I see here is Urshifu, to be completely fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team's got cute aspects. I think obviously there's like Gothitelle too. Gothitelle being able to trap things in with Urshifu. And it's like you have like the fast fake out support and everything from me and Chao, the coaching support. I haven't like Urshifu is very clearly picking up a lot of the kills for this team. So it's kind of the opposite of our other Urshifu team, where all the pieces here are being used to support Urshifu, as opposed to Urshifu being used to support the other pieces of the team. But I think
that's just kind of the difference between the two Urshifus though in this format.
But yeah, I think like so far nobody's been able to stop Urshifu, and I mean, strength of schedule is all right. They've played some of the strongest teams, and they've played some of the weaker teams. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's hard to knock a team that has access to what is, I think, almost certainly the most broken Pokemon in this format, in Urshifu Single Strike, and has, so far, like, the main thing I didn't like about it was that it really does have a crippling fairy weakness, but nobody's exploited that. He's brought Weezing a lot, to cover for it. But yeah, I mean, nobody's killed. Nobody's killed the Urshifu. Nobody's really stopped the Urshifu.
Yeah, I still don't like that tier 3. I think I remember saying that in the last PR. I still don't like that tier 3 a whole lot, and I stand by that. I see the Marowak with 4 kills in week 3. It doesn't really make a big difference to me. I still think that this tier 3 is like not an incredible fit on this squad, and I would prefer to see some more consistent speed control there
It has
in
Lantern
its
though.
place.
Lantern is the guiding light that illuminates the path to victory.
Okay.
He's also gotten a degree of value out of Stalin, which is why I think he drafted that tier in the first place.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's used all 3 mons in that on that trio, but I don't know. I still don't like it all that much, but I mean, that's me talking, and this guy is obviously the one that's gone out there and put in the work with the team, made it 4-0. I'm gonna be honest, I'm lower on this team than you both probably are. I don't love this squad. It really does feel like Urshifu is carrying a lot of the load here, and that the rest of the team just kind of like exists. Like it's Urshifu's world and they're all living in it. But I mean, yeah, Urshifu is really, really good and super cool, so I can respect that.
Yeah. I think so. I think this team is very I think this team is highly likely to end up 8-0, which is part of why I'm just I kind of expect to put it just like at the top of the tier list because I think this team is more likely than not to finish the season 8-0. And I think it does have the benefit of it's dodged probably a lot of the toughest matchups just in the way its schedule is shaped up. So playoffs will be exciting in that regard. Um, but I also said that he would be the first team. I also said his team would drop a game before mine would, and then I lost. So I can't, in good consciousness, rate my team above his.
Yeah, I mean, just because I know how much you value like mid-season performance, Lilac, and yes, his team has a very crippling, at least fairy weakness since it's so centered around Urshifu, and even honestly the Mian Shao to a degree.
Me and Shao
I
just runs a
still do.
focus sash and can't. Me and Shao can like only ever take 2 hits anyway, so and runs a focus sash, so it's kind of whatever.
Right, but I would definitely say like this is the strongest team in the format, and I was also about to say like I'm looking at the teams he has left, and I am very conceivably seeing an 8-0. In fact, I don't think any of those teams he has left on his schedule have well, they have fairy types, but like
Yeah, he could
the
lose to like
Pidovs have
Silvally Fairy.
yeah, he could lose to like Savali Fairy, and that's like the most likely fairy type I think he might lose to. Just because of like the flexibility of Savali. I don't think the Ludicolo's have a Fairy-mon. If they do, the Pidovs have Mimikyu, and that's just about as weak to Wicked Blow as if it was not Fairy. The Tranquils have like Silvally, and the Scythers, I think they have Grimmsnarl, that's like all right. But he's definitely getting a lot of value out of that Wheezing in tier 4, even if he's not using any of the other 2 poison mons. Yeah,
Doesn't really need to, honestly. Wheezing is the carry there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, he might wheel out Scolipede if he really like if he faced a team with like more fairies, like maybe if he like faced Lilac, for example, who has quite a few of them, he might be inclined to bring a second one, which would kind of weaken the strength around Urshifu just a little bit. But as it stands, Goth Urshi do be broken. That's the team.
He's gonna get somebody with Sword Stance Baton Pass.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna leave this one up to y'all because I realistically just don't love this team, and I can see that you guys think a lot more highly of it as members of this format. So I'll leave it to you where you put the ranking.
I think this team is going to end up 8-0 in the regular season, and that's the main reason I put it at the top of the standings. I don't necessarily think this team is a favorite to win playoffs. But I think these are like mid-season power rankings for the regular season. So I think this team. If I think this team is going to end up 8-0, if I think this team is going to finish the season 8-0, then like I think I have to put it at the top of the standings just because I think this team will be the winner of the regular season, right? So we're still in the regular season, and that's kind of why I feel inclined to put it at the top.
Yeah, no, I am in complete agreement. I think it'll definitely finish regular season very strong, but going into playoffs, depending on how those matchups line up, He could run into some trouble.
Yeah, I think the team could struggle to like break through stuff like Togekiss. I think the team could struggle to break through some other stuff, but it hasn't yet, and it's played some. It's faced some strong fairies and some strong teams, so um, clearly the weakness is at least somewhat navigable, and yeah, until proven otherwise, we'll see how things look going into playoffs. But I would not be surprised if at the end of the regular season, we see that the Chicago Cinderaces have not dropped a game.
Yep, wouldn't be surprised either.
We have 4 teams left. We have the Sky Strikers next, who did, I believe, take their first win this week versus Mav. It's not going to have shown up. It's not on the dock yet, but that did happen.
They did.
And this team, where did we put it before? It was one of our C tier teams before. And I suppose the team has kind of met expectations. Dragapult is obviously like an incredible mon in this format. And you've got Comfey that like can do stuff. But the team kind of looks like it sort of wants to be a Dynamax format, and I think the lower tiers aren't really working for it very effectively. Does it? It does not. It has 2 Unburdened Mons without. Oh no, there's. It has 2 Unburdened Mons, and Pincurchin is a terrain setter, and there's no electric terrain abuser, so Pincurchin doesn't really look like a Pokemon you'd want to bring a lot.
Yeah, I remember not liking this team at all last time, and I really have nothing new to add. I think that Dragapult, Comfey is like the only realistically like good part about this squad, and nothing else really works for me here. No Prankster to make Malamar better. One of the worst terrain setters for proccing Unburden with multiple Unburden proccers. And just overall, like a lack of fake out, lack of redirection. This team just really lacks utility, and kind of on the face value of it, lacks damage too. So, no mercy for Raking Ted's team. I think that this is still a really bad team. But Dragapult is nice. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I think Dragapult was an excellent tool, but I think I do think that it needed to be built around better. Yeah, especially because like Dragapult can be a great threat, but if you're running the physical sets, you really need to be careful about it getting like walled by fairies, right? Because this isn't Dynamax, so it's Shadow Force like can be good, like because like when you're using it to dodge stuff and then come back in and hit like through protect and stuff, but like it's not the kind of reliable secondary stab that you'd like to have on something that kind of ends up being your team's only real offensive threat. Charizard doesn't get any sort of real help here to make it usable, and Aegislash, I don't know. Ever since they nerfed that 10 BST, it doesn't seem like it's done so great for itself in VGC.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I am a lot less high on this team than I was when I started. It still has those combos on paper, but taking into account mid-season standings, it does not seem like executing those combos is what it excels at as a team. Like, I still love that I see that Comfey can proc a few policies, like we can see Unburden, we can see the pledge combos, but it does seem like they're overall struggling with utilizing some of those pieces. So maybe this team can look into getting some value. Specifically, I don't really care for that tier 3. And I know tier 3 is one of the hardest tiers, in my opinion, to find value in, but what they got there doesn't seem to be working for them either.
Yeah, I think the tier 4 is useless too. You were actually really high in this team, weren't you?
I was, because like I just look at it and I see like there's a combo, there's a weakness policy proc here, there's an unburdened here, there's 3 pledge mons that can do shenanigans there, like there's Spore, there's Trick Room. Like, it has tools, but like just having tools isn't enough cohesion if the mons themselves aren't that great.
Yeah, and Chad, I imagine you're about to say like Swampert and Sceptile, like fine mons at E tier.
I think they're okay.
Yeah.
I really don't like the B tier personally. Like, I think that the B tier and the C tier are both kind of bad. Um, that's about all I have to say, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
none of the mons in the tier two are really, or the tier two are really doing a whole lot, except for like maybe Pincurchin as an anti-trick room measure, which just play around trick room.
Yeah.
Trick room's not that good in this format, so
I almost wish the team had like its own like effective trick room setter, because at least then you could threaten like bulk up or curse Swampert, like really taking over a game, right? Because it can do that in non-max formats if you don't like prep accordingly, especially because like that A tier is full of grass resists that are like could support that pretty well.
mhm.
I mean, the team does have 2 Trick Room setters. It's just the lack of fake out makes it very hard for this team to even get Trick Room up.
Yeah. The lack of damage also makes it hard to like you can't because you could typically get around not having fake out by having like a mon that does a lot of damage on the board next to your TR setter so that there's like multiple things threatening the field state. But like this team just doesn't have it. Like Dragapult isn't that guy who picks up one hit KOs on in the first part of games. He's a late game sweeper. It's just like this team doesn't really like it's just missing far too much, I think. And as a result, I would consider it like a C tier team personally.
Yeah, we put it there last time, and that's still how I feel about it. Um, I
Yeah.
I kind of like it
Yeah.
more than the teams we currently have in C tier, I guess. But
I personally disagree, honestly.
you think it's even lower?
I think it's below both of those teams, in my opinion.
That's funny. I would say it's actually more in the middle, but I guess that's a form of compromise. But I do agree it's in C tier for sure. Like the record and a lot of the things we said, like something's not working for you, Ted. Make some trades.
Okay.
You got a few days.
Okay, well, we have one at the top of C tier, one vote for the bottom, and one vote for the middle. So I guess, yeah, that averages out.
Just put it in the middle then.
Yeah,
it's
middle,
fine.
middle is that's where we'll put it. Up next, one of our last teams here, the Vegas Volcaronas. This is the team that I lost to. But yeah, this team's still really funny for me to look at. There's like 4 dragons, and there's like 4 steel types, and there's like a fairy type, 2 fairy types even. No, a fairy type. Yeah, 1 fairy type. It's like, honestly, like they should have just gotten like a fully fairy trainer and just like in the last slot and just been like, my team is fantasy core.
Yeah, but the thing about that ideology is that would make his team actively worse.
Yeah, no, Mandibuzz on this team is very good at E tier.
Yeah.
I mean, just the value that comes out of that tier 4 pickup, Delibird and Mandibuzz both actually being relatively good. I don't know. I remember being really high on this team last time, and that you and Nick were not high on this team. And I continue to stand by my thought process, where I think that this team is excellent.
Yeah, I think it's a good team. I still think that like, I still think that some of the holes. It's funny because I lost to it, but the way in which I lost to it makes me think that like that while I underrated aspects of the team, I also think that there are still things that this team like struggles to break through. I do feel vindicated that this team can struggle to break through like opposing bulky steals and even bulky waters, but there's just not that many of them in this format.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like a bunch of our top teams have them, but like other teams, they don't.
I mean, this team has good bulky steals and a good bulky water type with Kingdra too. I think it often gets slept on, being kind of boxed in as this like classic rain sweeper, where it in this format it can really do way more than that. I mean, it can click Yawn. It has Icy Wind and Scald with a good defensive typing. I think that's really slept on as a bulky water style Pokemon. And I think, just the other A tier slots, Dragonite and Dragalge are both really strong damage dealers. And yeah, this team could realistically get utility out of every single one of the Mons on this team. And that's what makes me like it more.
Mm-hmm.
I have to face this team in week 6. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm a little scared of this team, so I'm not gonna try to give any productive suggestions because I'm super biased and I feel like I'm gonna lose to this team's just so stupidly bulky. Like we talked about how Niels' team is like bulky offense. This is, I feel like, more centric bulky offense. Like those steel threads in tier 3 are no joke.
Yeah.
And then you get the Steely Spirit boosting up the damage. Like Steely Spirit Sheer Force Iron Head sounds absolutely disgusting.
It's
it's
very
filthy.
It's very telling that, like, as to how bulky this team is, that the way I was killing all of its Pokemon was +4 and +3 boosted attacks.
That's insane. Like it's just so, and I agree with you. I have to admit, I was not so high on that tier 4, but I really like how he's used the Mandibuzz in particular. It's been just doing its thing. He also has like one of the most flexible like Trick Room like Pokemon in the game, in the Gourgeist, appearing at 4 different speed tiers, which can make that really obnoxious to prep for. He's got 2 fake out users. He's got Ice Shard side procs for like the whole, like the Dragon Mons. It's a well put together team for missing a lot of like essential types. I'm just gonna, or conventionally essential types. So
But
I gotta give him props.
Yeah, that was like the whole thing in this draft, right? I think this team more than any other team is like a product of the draft environment, in both why it's good and I think some of the things that it could still in the future struggle with. But yeah, I think it's a really good team.
I mean, at the end of the day, it just follows the ideology of like, I have a whole bunch of these types of Pokemon, and I'm gonna make you figure out how to beat them.
Yeah,
type of thing.
So, sometimes it's like, yeah, you can beat the first steel. Maybe you can beat the second steel. Can you beat the third one? Right? Like, it's definitely all in on like the overload ideology of team building, right? Like it's like, here's a bunch of dragons, here's a bunch of steel types. These types don't have a lot of weaknesses, and
you figure it out.
Yeah, and in this draft environment, a lot of people don't have a lot of things that beat those types, right? Like we talked about how this draft format teams struggle to break through bulky steels.
Well, he's got 4 of them, alongside at least, I would say, 4 bulky dragons, because Dragalge is pretty bulky on the special side.
Yeah.
So yeah, have fun breaking through all that.
Mm-hmm. And like, there's not a ton of great ice types running around either, because like a lot of the ice types are actually gummed up in the lower tiers, and a lot of people didn't pick the lower tiers that have good ice types. So like,
and he arguably has the best ice type in all of existence in Delibird. So I mean, he himself has a treasure that not many other people have.
Not to mention, he's got a whole freaking steel tier that'll steamroll just about any ice type that you might even try to bring versus this team.
Mon loses to Diglett. But yeah, how do we feel about this team?
I still like it in high A tier, as I've liked it last time in high A tier.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this team can definitely sit in high A tier. We've only got one other team in A tier right now.
I like this team better than that one, so.
This Ant-Man, he's not killing it in Mythical Mayhem, but he's killing it here.
Yeah, I think generally facing strong. He also had a pretty decisive 2-0 win over the team that he's sharing A tier with. So I think, I think the position at the top of A tier is well deserved. Last we've got or second to last, we have the last team that we put in S tier, the Somerville Caesars. Their season has been up and down. They've had a pretty tough first half of the season in terms of strength of schedule, right? They played my team, they played the Volcaronas, or they've played the Marauders, and then they've played the Silvalais. Team's got a lot of strong stuff going for it, like Tapu Lele, obviously one of like the best threats in this team. I learned the hard way that if you don't prep appropriately for it, Calm Mind Bulky Leftovers Tapu Lele is actively unkillable.
Yeah, it's a good mon.
Sometimes your only win condition versus it is to timer stall to win off of higher base HP stat.
Timer stall? What? Oh, did you do that or something? I think.
Yeah. When so.
Okay, yeah. Oh,
when,
was that the game where he had
yeah, no, yeah. So when we played the rest of the series, I realized that I could not kill the Tapu Lele. So I simply engineered a game state where Corviknight and Tapu Lele were the only Pokemon on the battlefield. And when they're both at full HP, Corviknight's HP stat is higher, and that's what wins the tiebreaker.
Talk about playing to your outs, man. Oh my god.
Some people said that was a disingenuous way to win a game, and I have to say it's in the game. That's how the game works. The mechanics of the game. I thought it was going to be a tie up until I won.
Yeah.
But yeah, that mon's very good.
Back to this team. I like this team still quite a lot, actually. My opinion on it has not really changed, even though, like you said, it's been a little bit of a up and down for them. I definitely think that there's still like a lot to be prepared for when going into this team. I mean, you have Ferrothorn with Rain, a relatively okay Rain mode. I mean, I was talking shit on Kabutops earlier, but that was because Kabutops was in a format with restricteds there, and here it's not, so it's actually not as bad. The one I like a little bit more is probably Omastar, but I think that they're both like relatively similar in their roles, just one's physical, one's special. And then Lele Oranguru is a really bulky, relatively powerful duo. And you have the Unburdened stuff with the Selgor and Fast Tailwind with Aerodactyl. I think that this team gets like probably some of the most value out of its D tier out of pretty much any team.
Bro, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, one thing that really stood out to me about this team is just like how well both the team and the player make use of the Oranguru. Like, as a prospective Tapu Lele and Oranguru user myself, I definitely struggled to get. I know in my experience using Oranguru was clearly not the same as this coach's experience using Oranguru. And they made playing against Oranguru exceptionally difficult. The mom was like really bulky, put out like respectable damage, and like offered a wide variety of like utility with like Instruct on a ton of different moves. So they've gotten a lot of mileage out of their A tier.
Kill leader Oranguru moment. I mean, for me at least, I feel like when your team, your A tier has a legendary in it, a strong legendary at that, you're pretty much just set to do well. Like, Lele is obviously Lele is broken, and having very solid Trick Room setter plus Instructor is nice, and Rain is broken in general. But like Rain plus Ferrothorn and a bunch of electric types feels pretty solid.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not really like. I remember last time I was pretty high on the electric types, just the B tier in general. I think that this B tier is actually like not quite as good as I remember it being, to be honest. Like, if they would have picked up Lieutenant Surge in that C tier slot, I think I would have liked that a little bit better for this squad. But obviously, like, that's living in the world of hypotheticals. But yeah, I think that the only one that really gets any mileage here is probably that Manectric, just because of Lightning Rod. Like, otherwise, like, Magnezone is like relatively mid as a TR sweeper and basically nothing else, and then Boltund is just not really that impressive whenever I've seen it used either. So I think that maybe the B tier could be a little bit better, but at the same time the Manectric just by existing provides value, so it's a coin toss right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, since I just came off of a fresh win versus this team, and I will agree with you completely, Chad. The I realized like in prep, like the B tier wasn't as threatening as it kind of makes it out to be, and I would even go so far as to suggest a better B tier alternative would be to pick up Sophocles so that they get Vigavolt, which would at least give them a slightly more passable TR mode, and maybe like shuffle some other stuff around.
Yeah.
And you still maintain some Lightning Rod support with Togedemaru, and I forget who the third member of that trio is, but
I think
Holy shit,
Togedemaru's a better
sounds
lightning
like-
rod support than
I was gonna say
Electric.
that sounds like a godlike pickup, low key.
Yeah, because I remember I was looking at it myself like very early on in the draft when I was looking at tier 2s. It's pretty. I think it might be. Well, I'm actually gonna pull the doc real quick. Yeah, he gets Togedemaru, Vigavolt. Oh, he gets Pincurchin. So that would be a little bit of a conflict since you already have Lele and Pincurchin not necessarily the best mon. But I will say that Ferrothorn and Rain checks out. Omastar is actually a lot more threatening than I thought it was. I did not underestimate it like when I prepped it, but like that mon hits for like some ridiculous levels of damage, honestly. Especially after he gets a free +1 off the Meteor Beam boosts. And then like you just have the size spam mode just chipping stuff while everything around it is either setting up or sweeping you. So yeah, it's definitely a really well balanced team in a lot of ways. Like the TR mode is just a little bit on the weak side, but like the Ferrothorn in some ways is enough to dissuade most people from even attempting Trick Room.
Yeah, I mean, you even pick up Pincurchin, and that's like another thing that can scare away TR mode. Like, the reason I wouldn't hate dual terrain on this team in specific is because the Oranguru works so well with both of them. Like, the Oranguru can set up the Pincurchin to hit Rising Voltage, or to, like, for Trick Room and Rising Voltage, just like nuking shit. And then you just get to do it again with Instruct. Like, there's like a level of like power there that the Oranguru offers. So I think that trade would, for me, put this team in S tier. As it currently stands, I think this is still an A tier team just because having a weak tier 2 doesn't feel super great to me. But
Yeah, I would agree. And even kind of capitalizing off that is the dual terrain offers him 2 different defensive value seeds. So like he can run Electric Seed on certain weeks to boost defense and Psychic Seed to boost special defense, which just makes this team even more of a nightmare to deal with sometimes.
definitely super agree with that.
Yeah, I give it strong. I don't
This
know.
is
Middle A
this is
tier.
I say this is my favorite A tier, to be completely honest.
Your favorite A tier above the Volcaronas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see above the Volcaronas, honestly.
Yeah, we can do that. We did originally have them even higher, so it's a bit of a drop down, but not that much. And I think the tier 2 just ended up being a bit weaker.
Yeah, and they have a worse record than the Volcaronas, but I'm gonna be real honest. Like the set we had was quite close. So
Yeah, I mean,
like
I think
I'll value that.
and I think our set was probably like will probably end up having been the closest set like in the entire season. So definitely 2 very close, heartbreaking losses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good team. I could realistically see them getting into playoffs with that.
Yeah,
I think they could very easily 4-0 the back half. Our last team is the Nova Scotia Scythers, who have had a pretty tough strength of schedule, but did upset our very own Miss Mag here in week 3. This team, very still an interesting team. It's
Yeah, they made trades, didn't they?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I was gonna say I see that A tier. That A tier looks a little different to me, doesn't it? Oh no, the trade center doesn't say nothing. So
Yeah,
I
no,
guess it didn't.
They always had the. Oh, they did.
They made trades. Sorry, I have not been good about updating the doc lately. Bad mod. But no, they did make trades. The old A tier was Yusin with Suicune. They traded it in for May, and then their old C tier was, I believe it was Winona with Pelipper and Corviknight, and they traded it for Piers.
That's where they got
The
the
Piers based pickup
Yeah.
immediately puts this team in A tier because of that pickup alone. Piers godlike.
But yeah, they did make
godlike.
trades.
May is so bad though. Actually, it's not that bad.
They wanted to preserve their rain mode is the only reason I'm guessing they made that trade. Because there was no other Pelipper on the board, because I think Night Owl has like Night Owl and Lilac have the other ones.
Yeah.
And Maverick has
Politoed.
And Maverick has Politoed, yeah.
I don't know. I don't hate the May pickup. I think that realistically, getting a special rain sweeper to pair with the your other two physical rain sweepers with not Crawdon, uh, yeah, shitty turtle Pokemon Dreadnought, Dreadnought and Barraskewda. I think that Ludicolo is a really nice addition for them. I like that, and I think that the tier 3 pickup, unironically, is actually not too bad. I've really liked to see Toxtricity, see how well it can do in a non-max format, just with how strong Overdrive is with the Punk Rock ability. I think that that could be nice, and you take away its biggest weakness to ground with all of your rain sweepers. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then Scrafty and Obstagoon have both proven to be like okay in non-max formats. Obstagoon, I think, gets a little bit better in this format specifically because good fighting types are pretty rare, and besides like the Urshifus, those are like the big exception. And its Guts Flame Orb knockoff facade set becomes way better just as a product of, you know, the format being a little bit weaker. Very interesting for them to keep the tier 2. I guess there is good value out of Grimmsnarl and Toxicroak, but yeah, I like this team. You know, lots of good Pokemon on this team personally, like what I see here.
Yeah, like Grimmsnarl at tier 2 feels like a steal.
Yeah.
Super big steal.
I think the trades are probably overall positive for it. It wasn't a very good Suicune team before, and I think I think some of the Pokemon picked up do more to support it. Give the team some extra firepower, really. Just from the likes of like the Toxtricity and even the Blaziken if it comes, right. Like, it's not a great VGC Pokemon, but like if you give Blaziken the space, it will kill things and go really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, not incredibly supported here. You typically like some hard redirection next to Blaziken or to get Swords Dance up, but I mean, you still have value outside of that with just like it can click Close Combat and get speed boosts, and click Flare Blitz and get speed boosts. So like, it's not a bad Pokemon.
Yeah, can probably click like a fast coaching on Grimmsnarl or something. Wouldn't be backed up by screens to get multiple off. You know, if you although I guess you
that'd
wouldn't.
be fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're running Screams Grimmsnarl, you're probably not running coaching to buff your Grimmsnarl.
Yeah. No, I would say that the trades, well, from the fact that I am this team's only win so far, I would say that the trades definitely helped out their team. The combination of the three dark types, and really actually that Toxtricity was way more of a pain to deal with now that it's kind of like it's just got a little bit better support. I think he gets a lot more value out of having multiple fake out users. He actually has 5 now. So, and like they all kind of do different things. Like he actually has 5 fake out users, which is kind of like obnoxious. And like there's so much flexibility, I think, in more so what this team can do compared to like when it was just like you said, like a bad Suicune team. I mean, I still think there's some weak points to like kind of exploit. Like I know that I like the bottom tier it has some decent mons in it, but like I mean, I'm not like super high on Dreadnought or even really seeking to be exact, but I think like the added pickups, especially like all those grass resists he picked up in like with the trades, that it helps him a lot.
Agree.
I agree. I think it's still a B tier team.
Yeah, this is my favorite of probably the B tier teams, though, personally.
Same.
From what we've seen so far.
I would give him the top of B tier.
Yeah, we can do that. They stay right where they were in it originally.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm interested to see how well they can do. You know, going forward into like the back half of the season, because like I can actually see that team potentially making playoffs. It's really just going to come down to how they play and prep.
Yeah, they have to win out. Or well, they don't have to win out, but they have to win a lot.
Yeah.
Winning out is preferable.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, going down early and winning out is like my comfort zone, so it's very doable.
Honestly, facing them just reminds me of how much I can't stand Grimmsnarl as a Pokemon. That's really the takeaway for me.
Have you tried having Psychic Terrain in your team?
You know, I never get a chance to draft it.
It's
Not
I
often.
prioritize that shit, dude. I've gotten done dirty by prankster like garbage so often that like it's literally scarred me.
Yeah.
It's scarred my drafting style.
I sat by this guy one time, and all of a sudden, every draft has to have anti-prankster tech.
It's so funny because like it's not even so much the prankster element that really bothers me. It's just how flexible Grimmsnarl can be. Like it can afford to do so many things, and I agree that like Nick said, like getting it in tier 2 at least, that's a steal.
Yeah,
And like
Grimmsnarl is one of my favorite Pokemon.
and you're not getting like two terribly bad Pokemon with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
usable.
Yeah.
But that is
Yeah,
going
two
to
solid pickups.
wrap up our tier list for the mid-season on Dream Team. Some things the same, some things different. Some teams moved up a bit, some teams moved down a bit. Not a ton of not a lot of dramatic departures. I think the Pidovs are the main one. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see the season wraps up. I think we've got some teams. I think we got some sleeper teams that could make a deep run, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of our top teams actually clashing in the next few weeks. So that's going to be super exciting too.
Mm-hmm.
Including
Agreed.
tomorrow, we have 2 S tiers facing off.
Man, I still have to find time to make a team.
Oh, that's a John. That's a John. She's Johning.
Damn, already?
No.
Not even done yet.
Hey,
Listen, I'll play you right now. I got my team prepped and genned. I'm ready to go.
God, man, the new FF14 patch dropped today. I'm pretty sure when I said Wednesday, I forgot that was happening. But yeah, I'll make a team like Wednesday morning or something, you know.
Sounds good.
All right.
But yeah.
That about wraps that up, yeah.
That does wrap that up, and so we're gonna close things up here pretty quickly. Thank you so much to my guests, Nick, Chad, Miss Mag. If you haven't yet, you know, you're always welcome to hop over to the TGR Discord, and yeah, I'll probably stream Cherish Foe, but I need to like run downstairs for like 2 minutes and like actually eat something. But yeah, we are wrapping up the power rankings portion of the stream here. If you're not a member of TGR and you're here for some reason, consider joining the Discord server. They run really cool and fun draft leagues. If you haven't followed my good friend Chad here, feel free to hop over to DH_Solanor and shoot a follow that way. I don't know if my other guests have Twitch channels of their own that I can plug or YouTube channels. I think Miss Mag does.
Follow Miss Mag. Miss Mag goated.
Yes, Prof_Miss Mag. I'll be streaming the rest of my TGR run for the rest of the season.
Based.
That means it'll be like double perspective tomorrow. You can you can watch Miss Mag's losing perspective or my winning perspective or both.
Ooh.
I can't wait. I'm hungry to get the rest of the wins on the back half.
Real.
I need to finish 7-1 so that when Dom drops it, so that if Dom drops a game, I can fight for egg season first. You like the winning perspective, foe? Then you want my stream. But yeah, we are going to wrap it up here. My stream's gonna stay running here for a bit because I'm about to stream my Cherish Ball game. But so if you want to stick around for that, that's probably gonna happen in 5-10 minutes here. But otherwise, yeah, thanks so much for watching our power rankings. I'll be sure to produce a VOD, and thanks so much to my guests.
Yeah, sure thing. Lots of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.